we're gonna wait till marriage. We're gonna do all this. We're gonna do all that. But again, as a man, those thoughts come into your head. So when that happens, I'm like, it's time to get out. Time to leave.
Thank you guys for coming back to another episode of the Salah Podcast.
You forgot to mention that I'm also a pool champion.
You know we can't cut stuff like this out, you know that? Words of wisdom from the sensei.
Somebody give me a hard drive. My mental capacity is like...
Why are you doing what you're doing? You could be doing something that's seemingly good for the wrong reasons.
Como ministros, ya no buscamos la esencia de Dios del corazón de la persona hacia el corazón de Dios.
Aceite.
Alrighty, guys, we're back with another episode of the Salah Podcast. Please remember to comment, subscribe, like the video, share it. Helps us out. The girls did an all-girls episode, so I think it's only fair that we did an all-boys episode. You know, the wife is possibly currently sleeping, you know. I'm lacking on maybe 2 good hours of sleep.
Same.
Besides that,
I'm tired.
Besides that, I think we're gonna ride this roller coaster of a ride and let the spirit take over.
Yeah, man.
You know, to my left hand side, we have first time on the pod.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
You know, I have you on my contacts as Frankie J with the guitar, bro. So, say what's up to the camera. Say what's up to the people.
What's up? Thanks, Freddie, for having me. It's my first time on a podcast, so if I mess up, it's because I'm nervous. That's the truth.
Hey, it's all right. Everybody starts one day, you know? And then we got Rudy the man.
What's going on, guys? It's my second time on here.
Martin. So where did Rudy come? Is that your middle name?
Yeah. So yeah, my middle name is Rodolfo. So like like my full name is like Mexican.
Martin Rudolfo.
Martin Rodolfo. Yeah.
See, I don't know what
Rodolfo.
I'm trying to pronounce it. You
So-
in there.
So I have a cousin, and Rodolfo is Rudolph in English.
Right.
So then she just called me Rudy. So now it's been Rudy. Since,
Martin Rudolph.
Yeah, Martin Rudolph,
Do
basically.
you have a middle name?
Well, technically, my name's Francisco.
Well, yeah.
But they say Frankie, yeah. Well, a lot of people don't know that. Well, I'm assuming, like, more English speakers assume that my name's actually Frankie.
Yeah.
But my name's Francisco, and then they call me Frankie. But I've just had that since I was little.
It's like my name, my
Nickname?
yeah. It's not even anything associated to.
Yeah.
Like
to-
Frodis?
Yeah. Like
It's like the
like
most
Freddie. Like
Yeah.
I've been getting called Freddie since I was a kid.
Me too. Since
But it's Alfredo. I was like,
Normally, Freddie is like Fred Rickards.
yeah. Or you know, like
Frederico.
like Freddie's its own name too,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And the way that my mom used to spell it is with a Y, not an IE at the end. So it's FREDDY.
So mine is.
That's how I spell it. Is that how you're supposed to spell it? No.
Well, no, because you have Freddie FREDIE or DDIE.
Oh, and that's like the actual name.
That's the
Okay.
actual way, yeah. It's like we were having a discussion with my wife the other day about the color brown in Spanish.
Café?
That's what we're used to, right?
Yeah.
If you Google this up, this is what Google said because we looked it up.
Yeah.
Because my wife is very much white
Yeah.
oriented. No, she is. Like my father-in-law, he was born and raised here.
Mhm.
His parents are, I think, like border towns, but they're
Yeah.
here, right? My mother-in-law is from Mexicali, Calexico area.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but my wife hardly spoke Spanish when I met her until she started coming to church and started singing in Spanish.
Oh,
That's
wow.
how she started developing her Spanish. But so we looked up the color brown. According to Google, the proper way to say it is marron is the proper way to say it.
Marron?
Yes.
That's like maroon.
Right. That's exactly what we thought. But if you look up the definition of it, marron is used in the high class. Café is low end class.
Hey,
So
man.
people started calling us cafe because
Yeah,
we're low class.
so we're low class.
Hey, man. I only know Spanish de rancho, you know?
Well, that's what I said. Me too. I'm like,
Get you around.
because we started, because that's how she,
Yeah.
she Googled up the color brown in Spanish because obviously I don't know why she looked it up. And she sent out a message, we're going to wear the color marron. Everybody understood maroon.
No, dude, it's
but it was brown.
yeah, no, it's funny because I was having this conversation at work, and it was like, oh, how do you say lunch in Spanish? It's like, oh, lonche, and it's like, no, it's almuerzo.
See, yeah,
or-
exact same
Yeah,
way.
I did not know
or
that.
like sandwiches. How do you say it? It's like people just say sandwich,
What do you say?
emparedado.
What?
Yeah, I never.
I'm
I
gonna
never
use
said
sandwich.
that.
Yeah, or people are like torta. Torta is like Subway.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's like a sub.
that's crazy.
Yeah, dude.
Where are your parents from?
My mom's from San Luis Potosí, so it's like a small ranchito.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then my dad's from the city of Mexico,
Okay.
so he's Chilango, if you can say.
DF?
Yeah. So all his family
Damn.
members speak exactly like with that accent.
Yeah.
That same lingo, but it's cool. They have a cool culture. Like as far as like.
You been down there?
I've never been down there, but from how they make it seems dope.
What's the farthest you've gone into Mexico?
My mom's ranchito, so
Yeah.
San Luis Potosí, but that's about it. I don't really go down there that often.
Yeah.
I go there every
I
year.
think the farthest I've been to is probably Hermosillo. That's
We-
driving.
We gotta take you to San Carlos.
Yeah. But man, not a scary cat, but
No, I'm scared, bro.
I'm scared, bro.
I'm
So
scared.
am
I'm
I.
I'm gonna
Nah,
say I
man.
do.
My dad, he took his truck last year, 4th of July, and like you guys seen
Yeah.
my dad's truck, dude. But when we were there, I was like, "There's better trucks here." There was like a freaking, like 2025 Denali, like HD, like
yeah.
like a super nice car, and the plates were freaking from Sonora, and I was like,
Skeptical.
Yeah,
Wink,
let's
wink.
go.
Just wink, wink.
You have
I
a nice
see
job.
you.
I
I
see-
see you.
I acknowledge you.
But I feel
You're
like
there. I'm here.
Yeah.
it's normal over there, probably. Like,
Well,
they're just
yeah,
probably
like
just
we
used to it, like-
we visit a church in Sonorita,
Okay.
which is a border town
Mhm.
going into like Rocky Point.
Mhm.
And same thing too, like not necessarily speaking on this topic, but there's the moms go to church to the
Yeah, we know.
no names, you know what I mean? So they go to church.
In nice cars.
Well, no, not even
Oh.
nice cars, but what I mean is the moms to those people go to the church.
Mm-hmm.
So and then literally the house in front of the church.
It's huge.
Mansion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I seen a documentary about that because they were like going over like the lives of what
Yeah.
they do and stuff, and like I said, it's just normal for them because the moms are like, yeah, well, we know that my son does this, but it is what it is, and like
Yeah.
I just
Yeah.
pray for them, and then like it cuts to the kids, and then the kids say the same thing. Yeah, like my parents know, but it's normal over here.
Yeah.
It's like crazy.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
I think it's funny, cause I mean, like being here, working almost any job, and then going over there, people are like, "Oh, you're like sweeping up money from the dirt, from the road, and stuff like that." So there's a checkpoint, and the military it's like a military checkpoint, and they always ask like, "What do you do for work?" And it's funny because my dad, he's like a carpenter. And the guy looked at him. He's like, "Are you sure you're a carpenter?" And then he's like, "Yeah, the last time I checked, I'm a carpenter." And then it's like, "Where?" He's like, "In Arizona." He's like, "Oh, okay, go ahead."
Yeah.
And I was like,
Like it doesn't fail. The
Yeah.
reason why I don't like going is it doesn't fail. I either get pulled over or at the checkpoint line try
No
to
money?
screw. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And then one time they try to take my license and they try to take my insurance.
That's
and
what-
so I'm like, homeboy, how much you want?
"This is a
So I gave him $40.
Yeah.
$40 and like 200 pesos is what I had on me.
yeah."
And I said, all right, this is what I got. He said, all right, cool. And he let him. But it was like I went maybe 10 over the because it's
Speed limit?
kilometers.
Yeah,
It's not miles.
yeah. No, that's
So,
why. So like, so my truck has a button that I could press, and then it's like, press OK for kilometers. So I
Yeah.
press it, and I'm like, okay.
Yeah. So, but it doesn't fail. Or like we get pulled over as soon as you cross, and we have to get off. And then one time, at the time, I had the GoPro, and I was doing vlogs for like working out, and I had my GoPro with me because I wanted to just record. And they thought that little tripod stand with the GoPro was like a container to hide narcotics, and I'm like,
So they broke
it's
it.
just a tripod. I mean, you can open it up. It's for the little camera here. He's like, oh, okay. But it's like they take everything off,
No way.
everything.
You need to go with us. You need
And
to
I'm
go the
like-
way that we go, and we never
Yeah,
get pulled
it doesn't
over.
fail. It doesn't fail for me. It does not fail every single time I cross. or I'm as soon as I cross, perfectly fine, and then we get to like close to the house, and then I get pulled over.
It's because they look at you and they're like, "City boy."
Pretty
city
much,
boy."
and I mean I've taken the Jetta. I've taken the Jetta,
Yeah,
and then probably because I washed it and looked nice and
yeah.
Nice.
you know.
Yeah.
And just,
We take our like 2008 Expedition over there.
Yeah.
But even then, like we take it, and then sometimes they're like, "Oh, you guys are rich."
yeah.
And we're
They-
like, "We've
they
had this for
know.
10 years."
They know. Like we were over there the last time, and they're like, "You're not from here, huh?" And I was like, "No." But like, I don't know how they just randomly came up to me and they
But
were
it's,
like,
it's the same thing. Like when we
Yeah.
went, I went like this past year. I went to New York, and we're accustomed to good morning, you
Yeah.
know, things like that. You go over there, you tell somebody good morning, that automatically gives you off as
"Really?"
not from that area. Yeah, I mean, I don't know how many times I got flipped off and yelled at for
For saying good morning?
no, for walking down the street. I mean, the
Oh.
videos you see online
Yeah, yeah.
are true and accurate.
What the-
True and accurate.
What
Yeah.
the-
And I don't know if you noticed it, but this past time that we went to Vision in Texas, like that's the only thing that you heard was like "Good morning" or "Buenos dias,"
Yeah,
and I think it's just because it's
and it has to do a lot with the culture over there.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? But yeah, a good morning out there is like
That's so crazy.
that's crazy.
Like, why
nobody has a good morning over there.
They live so fast.
Yeah.
They live so fast. Like
And like
everybody's-
it was April and it was still cold.
Mm.
But we were bundled up because it was
Yeah.
cold. And everybody else was like in shorts and like you know like
Yeah.
you would consider it for us it would be cold
Yeah,
because here I mean it's 50 degrees and we're freaking
crazy.
dying.
Yeah.
You know?
It's probably
Over
the
there,
same.
50 degrees and it's fine. Sunny out, you know what I mean? But reason why, this is good. This is a good little intro to this.
Yeah.
Completely
Completely off topic,
different.
Talking about
completely
Mexico.
completely off topic, but
It's a good
um,
icebreaker.
It is a good
is.
icebreaker. How do you feel? You feel relaxed? You still nervous?
Yeah, I'm going through it.
Hanging
but-
in there.
hanging in there, but you're gonna get
We
through
got, we're gonna do a 3-hour episode. Just
this.
FYI.
I'm
Whatever you need, I'm down. I already canceled the plan, so
But let's talk about this. We were having a little conversation off camera,
Mhm.
and I kind of want to jump into kind of conversations like that, with it being the topic of mental resilience, at a man's or guy's perspective, because it's difficult to be a man nowadays, because everything is so sexualized on social media and in society. In society, I mean, outside world, I mean, you can't even walk down the mall, per se, and not be exposed to that level of,
like temptation.
yeah,
Honestly, it's the
Yeah.
truth. It's temptation.
yeah. So, I mean, we have 3 different age gaps here. Myself being 30,
22.
I'm about to be 24.
24?
Yeah.
Really?
I'm gonna be 23 next month, but still.
Damn,
is older, yeah.
really?
A little bit.
Damn, it's crazy. I didn't know that, bro.
Yeah,
It's
how
an
old
old
do you think I
soul, man.
was?
Like 20?
Nah, I wish. Like this last year,
I
it hit me
wish.
like, oh my gosh. Someone said, "Bro, you're pushing 30," and I can't even like say no. I'm like, I am pushing 30.
Wait
like,
till you get to 30. Wait till you get to 30. Like, do you know how they speak on? We're gonna go a little bit off topic. But when they speak like when you hit 30, you start feeling everything. That's facts. That's facts. My back's like, oh, my back. You know, like get out of bed and don't want to get out of bed no more. You know.
your big morning stretch turns into a cramp.
Yeah, exactly.
You're like,
you know, what do they call them? The
Charlie horses.
yes,
Those suck.
yeah. So you never had one?
No, what is that?
That's
Like when your hamstring tightens up, you get a cramp in the middle of the night on your hamstring,
bro.
and your leg is
Okay.
like stretched out
Okay, yeah, I've
to the
had that.
max,
Yeah, I've had that.
and you just get up like ah. It's happened to me. Typically, because I was dehydrated. Just
Yeah,
Me
be
too.
quite-
After sports.
Yeah, to be quite honest with you guys, because I used to do deliveries, furniture deliveries, and appliance deliveries, and then, I mean, out on.
Yeah. About to, like,
One, it was so bad. I was still dating Liz, and we went out to go eat after I got out of work one time. We were walking back to the car, and I got one in the middle of the street. Oh my, it hurt, bro. I yelled, bro. I yelled, and the thing that sucked more is that I moved one leg one way and I moved the other leg another way, and I got both at the same time, bro. I couldn't move, bro. I was like, and then Liz is laughing, bro, and I'm like, I got mad, bro.
That
I
would
said,
be
Stop laughing.
me, honestly.
That happened to me once. I was talking to my parents after we went to play football, like a church tournament.
Yeah,
And I was like, they were like, drink water because you're going to get cramps. I'm like, I never get cramps. I kid you not. I think God humbled me that day. Literally, as I said that, I got a cramp on my right calf. And I was like, oh my gosh. But I was so dehydrated that I tried to turn to this leg and I got a cramp on this one. So I was just there in the restaurant, like holding my breath, all red. And the waiter came and they were like, do you want anything to drink? I was like, I'll be there right there.
yeah, bro. No,
it was like the episode from SpongeBob.
That was
yeah.
so bad.
It's crazy though. Honestly, it's crazy what water does,
Yeah.
No, duh.
right? But coming back to the topic, we're gonna go everywhere with this.
Yeah.
I tell you, man. I tell you, we're gonna jump on this roller coaster
Yeah.
and see where it
It's
takes
gonna
us.
be fun. Hey, they're gonna so going off topic a little bit. Me and Samantha, we were talking about like different mentalities and like the woman's perspective and like the man's perspective. And like for me, so like we're planning on getting married, right? And I was telling her like it doesn't need to be hard to plan a wedding. She's like, yeah, we need to do this. And then I was like, look, what do we need? We need the venue, we need food, we need music, we need this, and this. And I was like, we already have all that. We just need to decide. She's like, no. And then I was like, hypothetically, let's plan it right now. And I was like, look, this is what we're gonna do. This is what we're gonna do. This, and this. And they said, oh, actually, you're right. And I was like, spent 15 minutes planning the wedding.
But let me tell you that. Let's jump into both mentalities, right? Because we're talking about mental resilience here. If it's that simple, but yet God was so specific on the details.
Mhm.
Why do we overthink it a lot?
Like both of us, or what?
In general,
Like man and woman.
yes, because a man's perspective, and you guys can tell me, right?
Mhm.
Man's perspective is very like that, very straight to the point, very straightforward. Doesn't think realistically on the consequences, if there is any consequences. But a girl's perspective is very
Methodical.
yes oriented, double guessing, not no está conforme with
Mhm.
what the outcome is, right? So, but yet God was so specific on the details. So if we're speaking on the tabernacle, the details on the tabernacle, we're speaking on Noah's Ark, the dimensions of Noah's Ark. So God was so specific when he gave instructions. Why do we tend to either fly over a lot of the little details and see where we land, or we overthink a lot of those little details?
I think it's as like me personally, I could just go like a million miles an hour, right? Like just keep going, and sometimes I'll forget a bunch of the little things. But in this case, Samantha, she'll remind me of the little things. So then that's where she comes into play of like slowing me down. But then my job is also to like, if she's slowing down too much, then that's when I help her speed up. That way we're like going at a constant speed.
What do you think, Virgil?
I think like overshooting and undershooting. I think two big things is like comfortability.
Yeah.
I think like as a man, it's easy to get comfortable when you're just doing the same thing, and as well, I think fear is a big one because you're just scared to take that extra step. Like I know you hear it a lot of like motivational speakers, like oh, fear is like the biggest dream killer, but it really is because
Yeah.
like if you're not willing to just take that risk, like that's a big life changing moment. Like even talking about ministry, because like a little bit backstory of me is like I was never involved in ministry, and I always prayed to God to like to give me my ministry, you know, to guide me in that way, and a lot of doors opened, and it was a lot at once. But I think if I would have been scared to do it, I would never have done it.
Okay.
You know, so it's kind of just having faith in God that God's gonna put you where you need to be, and just not being afraid.
Imagine being Noah, right? And you hear God's voice, and he's telling you to be specific on the dimensions of an ark that's going to save creatures, right? And essentially, mankind. What do you think is going through his mind as he's nailing every piece of wood, trying to break down the dimensions that God gives him, and then focusing on the little things? You know how much revelation that takes to be able to. God gave him specific instructions, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of little details that maybe God didn't give, but he revealed it to him as he was building it. So for us, as being home builders, as being foundation setters, and you can see it now in today's society, the lack of man presence,
Yeah, for sure.
right? And that what I come to that is the mental resilience is like, where has our mentality shifted nowadays? And we were talking about a little bit of how society has sexualized so much nowadays that you can't even go down and get a coffee because the person I'm not even judging. This is not even
Yeah.
judging, right? But a man can't even walk, can't even look because either A, the other person gets offended, or B, you're a pervert.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So in the field that I work with, it's like I have to maintain a level of professionalism throughout anybody who I see, whether they're dressed modest or they're dressed inappropriately. And realistically, that's the society that we live in today.
Yeah, like you
So-
can't even drive down the freeway without seeing like a one of the billboard signs for something sexual.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
And me personally, I think like as men normally deal with like pornography and
yeah,
and temptations like that and stuff. Like of course women do, but we see more that men do. And I feel like it's just that is where our mentality has shifted. That sometimes as men we haven't been strong enough, I guess,
yep.
to say, hey, you know what, this has to stop. Or even just being that light for someone else. Yeah.
And I heard this in a preaching. I mean, if he's watching it, probably not. They ain't gonna watch it, but
They are, bro, they are.
Pastor. What is his? God, I can't even. I lost his name. From the Gathering Church up in Bellevue in California. But he specifically said, I love hearing his preachings. They're so simple, but yet so deep. He said that in order for you to see how your light is shining or your taste as salt to be on earth, you have to be put in those dark places to be able to see, because it's easy to be light
Yeah.
in front of
In the
other
light.
light.
Mm-hmm.
But if your light is in a dark space per se and you lower down the dimmability of it, how much are you shining? Do you know what I mean? So in today's society, and this is what I've learned, and it's taken so much and so much willpower. That's why I think self-control it's a fruit of the spirit.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure.
You know, it's a fruit of the spirit, because what are the fruits? What are the fruits of the spirit to us? It's our identity in Christ, right? Because faith without works is a faith that's dead.
Yeah.
Right? So like you were saying, fear is a dream killer. It is. But what overcomes fear? Faith.
Yeah.
Right? So to me, in speaking of the mental resilience, I just preached about this on Sunday. About the 3 young men in the fiery furnace. And this is deja vu,
Shadrach,
actually.
Meshach,
I'm not even gonna lie.
Abednego.
This is deja vu.
Yeah.
But the way that this, and many people get focused on what God did, right, and how He delivered them from the fiery furnace. But if you're speaking on their mental resilience to be able to stand up to a king in the middle of society, in the middle of being peer pressure, to submit
And
to
still saying
his
I
will.
won't bow down.
Yeah.
And he still said, I won't bow down. But here's the crazy part. I don't know if you guys understood this. In chapter, what is it? It could be 318, I want to say, but I could be wrong. But it's in chapter 3. It talks about that the king Nebuchadnezzar, he said, at the sound of the flute, of the harp, of all musical instruments, right? And if we look at Psalms 150, right? I would praise God with my harp. I would praise him with cymbals. I was praising with the same exact type of musical instruments.
Mhm.
And at the end it says, in Psalms, it says, and everything that has breath,
Praise the name of the Lord.
praise the name of the Lord, right?
Mhm.
So the enemy wants the same type of
Praise.
worship, reverence, as what is only supposed to be submitted to God,
Yeah.
right? And I said this, and I said, the Lucifer, the way that something kills your heart, it's only a 12-inch gap, and that is from the mind to the heart.
That's true.
You know,
Yeah.
that's it's only a 12-inch gap. It's not miles. It's not you know, I don't know how, you know, the track was, it's not the distance.
Yeah.
It's only a 12-inch gap in how we can separate from the will of God. If we look at David, right, when he sinned, right? Why did he sin? For A, he was alone. Number 2, he caved in to his thoughts that then lusted in his mind, and that gave way to corruption into his heart.
Yeah. But I think that's why I gave a preaching about that like the heart is deceitful. Because a lot of the times when we make decisions straight off of just what our heart and our intentions, it could lead us to the wrong things. Speaking from like personal testimonies, it's like when you don't put your trust and your faith in God alone, and you think, okay, well, this is my belief, this is what I think, this is my heart. That's when you're led off astray, because even how society does it, they just go based off their heart. Like, okay, well, we love everybody as Christians, but we still have to correct them when you're in sin, just like Jesus corrects us when we're in sin. And that's when it's important. My preaching title was Faith Over Feelings, because it's not always just what we feel. It's about the faith that we have. And faith looks different in a lot of ways, because I was talking to my parents about that, like when God told Abraham to sacrifice Isaac.
Yeah.
You know, that's a big step of faith. And sometimes we think faith is like, oh, he was hopping and skipping all the way up there to the mountain, like happy that he was gonna. I don't think that was the case.
No,
He
it
coulda
might have been.
He could have been the complete
yeah.
opposite. Like, I hate God. Like, probably not to that extent, but like, God, why? Like, why? Or
Well, you
anger.
can feel the pain that this man was walking.
Yeah.
Even to have Isaac ask him, "We have the wood.
Where's the lamb?
Where's the lamb?"
Yeah.
And then for
him to be like,
I'm
God
gonna kill you.
provides.
I'm gonna
"You're
kill
it,
you.
you're it, homie.
You're
You're
the
like you're
lamb.
it."
Yeah.
He said, "Nah." And he said,
God will provide.
"God will provide."
Yeah. And that's why how you said mental resilience and not thinking with your heart, because he could have easily rebelled against God and said, well, that's my son. Like, why? I can't kill my son. But his faith overtook that. And, you know, that mental resilience that you're talking about is what led him to be up there. And obviously God honored him and didn't allow him to kill his son. But
Imagine that relief that Abraham felt.
Yeah.
Like, just to hear the voice of God saying, "Don't kill this boy."
But after that, God specifically changed his name,
yeah, from
and he
Abraham
told
to
him, "You would be a father of many nations."
Yep.
yeah.
So, overcoming your thoughts, overcoming your deceitful heart, overcoming every step is sometimes its own process.
Oh, for
Overcoming
sure.
doubt.
Yeah.
Because we as men, right? Generically speaking to men right now, right? We get caught up in being guarded and being so in our bubble. Like, I'm not going to share my feelings. I'm not going to say this. I'm not going to say that we allow ourselves to submit and bow down to our own thoughts.
Yeah.
And essentially destroys what God has already overcome you to.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I feel um, like for example, my grandpa,
Mhm.
he's old fashioned. For him, he's like los hombres no lloran, you know, like he's that type. And I feel like most of us, that's the way that we grew up. It's like, oh, you fell down, it's okay, get back up. Oh, you're heartbroken, oh, it doesn't matter, don't cry because men
Yeah.
don't cry. And it's like men aren't supposed to feel feelings.
It's like I'm gonna bring this a little bit more. Have you guys watch boxing by chance?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
do.
Have you guys ever seen like those like the like the like the build up episodes to the fight?
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
Right. There was one with Canelo, and his little kid got hurt or something. He
Oh,
was
I
crying.
seen that. Yeah.
Yeah, and then one of the trainers was like, "Don't cry, men, don't cry." And he's like, "No, no, no." He said, "It's okay to cry."
Yeah.
You know. And this is somebody who's
Champion of the world.
mentally locked in. You know,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
he said, "It's all right. It's all right to cry." But if how do I put it in perspective? Not everybody has that same mentality,
Mm-hmm.
right? Jesus cried.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shortest verse.
Not only cried, but
Yeah.
not just
Jesus,
cried.
the
He
shortest
wept.
verse in the
Yeah.
Bible.
Yeah, Jesus wept. Not
Yeah.
yeah, because crying is like crying. No, like he wept.
Yeah.
He was weeping.
So
Yeah.
he lost a friend, and he was sad.
Devastated.
He was devastated. You know,
Yep.
and him being an image of God,
Yeah,
right,
like
and
him
walking on
being-
earth perfectly, he still had humanly feelings and
Mhm.
humanly emotions.
Yeah.
So why can't we express ourselves in that manner? Why do we guard ourselves?
I think it comes down to like just society and what the narrative
Expect.
they try to push on one another. Because even speaking as a man, I'm like I feel personally that they try to dumb down the man.
Yeah.
You know, that they try to limit what the man is supposed to do, and clearly, as a man, and speaking about the Bible, like God puts a heavy burden for us, and especially as like founders of our homes. And I think society is trying to break that because they know if they can break the family, then they break like the unity with God. Because when you become like marriage, you know, talking about even Rudy, me, you, like plans of getting married or are married, you become one with that person. Now, if you break that family and you allow, you know, temptation, lust to get into that, it's easy just to destroy it.
Yeah.
And speaking of I don't know if you guys have heard the testimonies that I've kind of shared.
Mhm.
To me, when I started going through marriage crisis,
Mhm.
right, and I'm, you know, grace of God, I'm about to reach 10 years of being married this year.
That's awesome.
Congrats, man.
Yeah.
Congrats.
But after the first 3 years, they said if you make it past the first 6 years, like your the rate of success of marriage, it grows higher, right?
Mhm.
Typically, marriages nowadays last you 60 days, and this is just me being
Couple
sarcastic.
weeks.
Yeah,
Yeah,
couple weeks. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But coming back to that, it's like my marriage crisis started when I started giving leadway to my thoughts and started saying, well, my wife isn't doing this, my wife isn't doing that. Like, why should I even, like, I even started, I this came to a point
Yeah.
where my wife, I've talked this to my wife, and I've shared it on here, where I told my wife I didn't love her. Like, we sat in the car and I said, I don't love you. You know how much it took me to regain
That trust.
that trust and that relationship from those words?
Yeah, that's tough. Yeah. Well, love is the building block of everything, and that's why
And
God even-
society has minimized that word.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Love has become lust. Like, truthfully, like,
Yeah.
what people think is love is just typically lust. And I once again, I talk from past testimonies that sometimes as a man, you think you love someone, or you think that that's the right place for you to be,
Mhm.
but a lot of the times it really is just lust that's
Yeah.
keeping you there.
Mhm.
And that's why even mental resilience as boy, like talking like in a boyfriend and girlfriend, is super important, because as soon as you allow that lust and that temptation to come into that relationship, it's pretty much game over.
Mhm.
Because even the Bible talks about running from lust.
Yeah.
You know, like, and it's crazy to think like God says, like, you know, praying and I'll be there, and he always will be, but he literally tells us to run from it. And we see like time and time after again, the biggest men in the Bible have fallen due to lust.
David.
You know, all of them have.
Samson.
All of them, like they're so mental resilience and all this, and they have faith. Some greatest men to ever walk this earth, and they all fell to lust. So, that's why.
And that's crazy,
Yeah.
right? It's crazy that the Bible is filled of examples of great men of God falling to victims or being praised to lust.
Yeah.
Right? Like in the story of Jezebel, right? We give so much leeway to the spirit of Jezebel, right? But where's the mental resilience of these men, right?
Yeah.
Like how much power, and this is not bashing a woman or a girl or anything like that, but how much power does it take to say no?
That's true. It's a tough one.
Yeah.
It's like let's just jump into it, right?
Yeah.
Pornography.
Yeah.
I was exposed to it when I was small.
Same.
And I felt slave to it for years, even being in church. And I've fasted, I've prayed. My wife has joined me. You know what I mean? Even after maybe being married, I still had, fallen victim to that.
Yeah.
And it took me so much time to be able to overcome a lot of those emotions. And I heard preachings. I heard pointers and advices to how to overcome all this stuff. And I tried to implement it in my life, and I still fell back victim to it. Right? So being now and being fortitude in now where I am now and not being able to deal with it is such a relief.
Yeah.
But I can't tell somebody, hey, it's this way and this way and this way. And if you do this and if you do that. No, because Paul lived with a burden, or he lived with a type of, in Spanish, un aguijón, his whole life. But that kept him humble. And I told, not that I'm dealing with you guys, don't think that, right? But I told my wife, how would I ever know if I'm 100% free from it? Maybe I wouldn't know. But I told my wife this, and I heard it from a preacher. And, he said, did the multitude receive the miracles, or was it the disciples that received the miracles? And if any disciple ever received a miracle? No. Any disciples did not receive any type of miracles. They performed miracles.
Yeah.
But the multitude were the ones who received those miracles. And it says that by the shades of Peter, people were being healed. But coming back to it, it's like, maybe we don't know if we're ever going to be free 100%. We can say we're free, but all it takes is one door being left open, and it will slave you back to the core, right?
I feel like it's also a way for, like, if just saying we don't forget it, right? Or if we're always questioning,
Scarred.
That keeps us mentally in the sense of, well, this is what happened when I was doing it. So if we're always like acknowledging it, and it's like, yes, this was a part of my life, this is what I used to do, then we won't fall back into that. If we acknowledge it, and because like, let's say we treat our sin, like, for example, pornography, if we treat it as a lion, if we forget about it, it'll come back to us. But if we always keep it at bay, and we're like, no, like you're not going to do this, you're not going to do this, and we hold on to God's power every single day, and we hold on to his grace, then that sin isn't going to have a hold on us, because we're going to be every single day killing our flesh, like the word says.
But what essentially drags us, or what essentially keeps us there, is guilt.
Yeah.
Right?
Or not knowing. I feel like sometimes when you're sinning, you may not even know it because it becomes so normal to you.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm saying. Today's society has sexualized everything so much.
Yeah.
You can be on your own feed.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And a friend of yours posted something
Yeah.
You know, not expecting that you were going to see that, and then your mind's like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. I had
But
to
it-
take off a lot of people.
So
because of
I'm
that.
like, honestly, and my struggles were so bad that I slept with my phone next to me. Well, when I was sleeping, I slept with my phone in my pocket. This is how bad it was.
I remember. I think in your
Yeah,
podcast, you
because I
spoke
was
about-
so embarrassed of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, what if my wife finds out? And sure enough, one time she went through my phone and she seen it. And this is when I knew that that God really was like there. Because instead of my wife being like, I'm out,
Like, what is this? Like,
yeah, she was like, what's going on? Talk to me.
Mhm.
And I'm like, this is what I've been dealing with for years. I've been a slave to this. And instead of her like, clack, 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 she said, no, we're going to pray together and we're going to overcome this together. So that was like, all right, God.
a relief for you. I feel like.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
like to the point of like, okay, now I don't have to fight this alone.
Exactly. Exactly. So then I'm like, now I don't have to be scared to
Yeah.
be like, babe,
I'm struggling.
I'm struggling.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
help me.
I feel
And,
like
and even
as
being married now,
Yeah.
even being married now, I'm like, this could be a little bit TMI,
good,
but I'm
you're
like,
good.
wife, you got put out because
Yeah.
you know, if you and that's it's essentially it's being realist here.
Mhm.
We're
Yeah.
men,
Yeah.
Yeah.
right? And if we're giving leeway to that, just you have a wife there,
Mhm.
right? I'm not saying that that's just what the wife is for,
Mhm.
Yeah.
but they're there to help you.
Not only that, but as men, also like women, like we all have needs.
Yep.
And a thing that I like my parents, they've taught us since I can remember, like in a bunch of churches, they don't want to talk about sex.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like, why don't you guys want to talk about sex if that's something that God made? And people don't want to hear the sex is good part because they're like, no, sex is
It's
something
so
to
it's so
yeah.
it's
but
so
in the
religiously
word- yeah.
casted away.
Yeah, but in the word, it like the Lord says, husbands, please your wives. It's not just wives, please your husbands. And me and Samantha, we've we've sought out like some counseling, like because I mean we're planning on getting married and stuff like that, and like thankfully, everybody that we've talked to, they've all been like, hey, sex is good. But in a bunch of churches, they're like, oh, sex is bad. And
Yeah.
it's like, no, God created it. God created it to be pleasurable.
It's a blessing if
Yeah.
you think about it, because we're talking about living holy. You wait for
Until
that
marriage.
moment.
Yeah.
You know, you wait for that intimate moment where you could essentially like make love to your wife. That's like
Yeah.
you becoming one. Like
Mhm.
that's a
That's
blessing. It's
it
a
right
blessing,
there.
really.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
That's how I feel.
Let
like,
me ask you guys. You guys are in this. You're in the planning stages. You're in the dating stages, right? How hard is it to stay?
brother.
To
It's hard.
stay.
especially
Bro,
nowadays,
so-
because everything is so tempting.
Yeah.
Like how you said. Sorry to cut you off.
No, you're good. You're good.
Like everything you see, like even I'm sure you know, because when you go into the gym, like you go to the gym and
Dude.
it's like you're so full of like
Honest,
testosterone.
I'm gonna be
Yeah.
very honest with y'all. Not that this is the excuse for it.
But that's the reason why you don't go to the gym.
no, necessarily, because I can go to the gym, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's why I preferred a smaller gym.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because at least there, like I can show up on a Saturday morning and there would
Yeah.
be
Nobody.
nobody there.
Yeah.
You keep
Or I would
those-
go on nights, same thing. And honestly, being at the gym did open up a lot of doors for me
Mhm.
that I should have never opened.
Yeah.
And going to a big gym, you turn to one side, you turn to another side,
Yeah,
and
you
you
can't-
walk. You can't. You
'cause you
can't.
The
can't.
only thing that
And then
that you have to
in
do
my
is like
perspective,
look down or look up.
in
Like,
my
that's the only
perspective,
thing.
yeah, in my perspective, when it comes to that kind of stuff, the wound is still fresh,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
Again, I'm not saying this because this is the reason I don't go to the
Yeah.
gym. No, I go to the gym because that's just my decision. I go to the gym.
Sometimes
I
being
need
in
to go
bed is-
back. To
yeah,
be
yeah,
very
yeah.
honest with you, I need to go back. But
I don't know.
Pounds are getting added on
Yeah.
there. You know what I mean?
No, but the temptation I mean, it's always there.
Yeah.
You know, but like for example, with me, like I'm a couple months out. You know,
Yeah.
so it's like okay, just a couple more months type thing, and it gets hard because now like we have to spend more time because we have to be planning everything. You know,
Yeah.
and we have to be doing that, and sometimes we like we could be in the car like we're eating and then we're planning, right? But then we have to have that mentality of like, okay, this is all we're gonna be doing. Like we can't even watch a movie, and it's like we have to be so aware of
Yep.
those situations. But like I'm so glad that Samantha has like she's able to say no to everything like this, you know? So like we both acknowledge that there's temptation in everything that we do, and we're both like we both agree what we're gonna do,
Yeah.
right? We're gonna wait till marriage, we're gonna do all this, we're gonna do all that. But again, as a man, those thoughts come into your head. So when that happens, I'm like, it's time
Yeah.
to get out.
I think
Time to leave.
You
Time
have
to take
to-
a walk.
I think you
Yeah.
have to address the wound though, because how you're talking about it. Just because you get married doesn't mean that temptation is not there no more.
Exactly.
You know, because if you're not, whether that be with your partner or someone around you, like if you don't address that wound and go
Mhm.
into the expectation that marriage is what's gonna fix it, and
Yeah.
being honest, having sex is gonna fix
No.
No.
it's not gonna fix it.
No, because
you're
those,
not
those
addressing
feelings are
it.
still there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because just because you're married doesn't mean like girls just disappear, or
Yeah.
like that the gym all of a sudden is just an all guy gym. You know,
Yeah.
like I feel like you have to address those wounds and have those difficult conversations. And going back to the point where you're saying, like where churches don't talk about it, I think they should like a lot
Yeah,
more, because if we're
100%.
talking about the Bible, like we just talked about it, that great men fell to lust and we don't speak about it at all.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like how do we expect for men to overcome that if they don't know where to go or
Yeah.
how to deal with it? You know,
Yeah.
because even like I've struggled with that before too, where it's like, well, okay, I'm struggling with it. I know I'm conscious of it. You know, I'm praying to God, but okay, where do I go, or what do I do, or who do I tell? Because even like if you're to tell, sometimes it's like embarrassing, or you just feel like someone's gonna judge you, like, oh well, you're living in sin, like, you know, when it shouldn't be that way.
It shouldn't.
I feel like
Like,
what would come into
yeah.
play there would be also discipleship though,
Yeah.
because like
and
in
community, 1,000%.
because in some like most churches there's like a men's group, right?
Yeah.
But sometimes in those men's group, the only thing that they talk about is providing, and it's like I feel like there isn't like there might be a couple, but there isn't really
But-
a sense of like, oh, you're not providing. I feel like it's more okay, how to be a fatherly figure, how to be a part of that nuclear family, how to be that head of the household, you know. But not only that, but how are you also able to submit to God and give your temptations to God, you know?
And it follows along the lines of David had to speak to somebody
Mhm.
to be able to be released of his guilt.
Yeah.
Right.
And most of the times that he committed
But he's
sexual immorality,
because
it was
he-
him alone.
yeah, and it wasn't just sexual immorality.
Yeah.
He was also a murderer.
Yeah.
You know, he killed.
Bathsheba's husband.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like this guy.
He tried to cover it up instead of just coming out with it. He tried instead of telling the truth, he thought it would be the best way to just lie.
Well, sin becomes more sin. Like if you allow
Mhm.
one sin, it just is like
and this is a
it-
man.
It goes on to something else.
yeah,
you
and
know?
this is a man that walked according to God's heart.
And the crazy thing is, and I remember you told me this, is the reason why he was a man according to God's heart is because every time he sinned, he acknowledged that he sinned and that he went straight to God instead of staying the same.
Yeah.
And that's how I see personally how we could become one with God. How we're able to be like the Davids, you know, to be like the Daniels, and acknowledge that God is always there. God is always seeing us. So I don't like. I guess so. It helps me to know that God is always seeing me, because it's like I'm in the restroom and God's here,
Yeah.
you know, and I'm like how can I be looking at something on my phone and then God is like,
Well, even that too. Like, I'm gonna expose
ahead,
myself
go
a little
ahead.
bit, right? Because with the same phone that we use our Bible app, It's the
Go
same
there.
phone you're
Go
watching.
there.
You're nasty. You know what
Hold
I
on,
mean?
hold on. Say it again, so you could get a clip out of this.
The same phone you use your Bible app to read scripture is the same phone you get caught watching pornography. It's the truth.
Right
It's
there.
the truth,
Yep.
right? So I'm like, all right, Lord. You know, Apple has this thing where you can block
Mm-hmm.
content
Yeah.
restrictions. So I have that on.
Yeah.
Right.
That's something that me and Samantha have.
Yeah.
Like we have like screen time limits and stuff like that because
Yeah.
we don't want to be on our phones that much. But you could like I figured out a way how to do the web restriction so like you
Yep.
can't even go to private mode
Yep.
on Safari. I did that with a bunch of the jóvenes like a couple years ago that
Yep.
I was helping mentor.
I
And it's just
have
like that.
I have that on.
And if it's like any explicit website, like it'll block it,
Yep.
or if it'll or even if it's like a website that'll
Or even on
Sort of pop up.
even
Yeah.
even on like Instagram or things like that, automatically start blocking stuff.
Yeah. I block
Uh,
instead of saying not interested.
Yeah, I do both. I do not
Yeah.
interested and block
Well,
it.
I tried the not interested and
Like it still pops up.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
like Instagram is like, okay, so you want this.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I'll just
Opposite.
block everything.
So yeah, I just started blocking stuff, and then because honestly, it is like I said, it is a scar,
Mhm.
and then we have to acknowledge the scar
Yeah.
and where God. That's why it's so key to acknowledge where God took you out of.
Yeah.
It's like a drug addict, right?
Mm.
Acknowledging that he was a drug addict, and that realizing that God took him out of that.
Yeah.
To now being obviously free from it.
Yeah.
So
One sorry to cut you
You
off, but I like, do you know who Julio Cesar Chavez is, the
Yep.
boxer? So he always says he's like cuz he got an interview a while back and they asked him like, "Oh, how does it feel to be free from drugs?" He's like, "I'm still a drug addict." He's like, "Because I'm addicted to drugs." He's like, "I'm 14 years without using drugs." He's like, "But if one day I just let my guard down, it's going to come back." So he's like, "I have to acknowledge that he's a drug addict
Yep.
because he gets addicted to drugs." He's like, "I have to acknowledge that it's there because if I don't and I let my guard down even just a little bit, that temptation will come and I won't want to do it."
Yep.
And I feel like that's the way that we have to be with our temptations.
yeah,
And even though it's not a physical scar that like you could see, it's something internal.
yeah,
But even though that it's internal and if it comes from the heart and it's a scar on the heart, people are going to be able to see it.
and that's one of those things too. Like any alone time that we have as men, like they say, well, alone time is good. No, homie, I'm sorry.
No.
Alone time is not good.
No.
Because in your alone time, you tend
That's when
to
you're most vulnerable.
Yeah, you're most vulnerable to A, fall to depression, B, fall to the thoughts that you have, and just start
Yeah.
playing this movie in your head of what it could be or what could have been or what if I this or what if I that. I work in a nice area that I'm exposed to, you know, the level of young ladies that live at the property, right? And my maintenance guy's like, you don't ever like look at these girls. I'm like, honestly, I go on this professionalism mode where it's my job. I'm not gonna let my guard down at anytime, because if not,
Not even entertain the thoughts.
yeah,
Yeah.
because if not, I just
Yeah.
what corrupts the heart
Mhm.
is that's what, like when they say that masturbation is
Mhm.
it's a sin too, because when you're masturbating, you're perverting your mind
Mhm.
to your thoughts and why you're doing it. That's
Yeah.
the reason of masturbation,
Mhm.
right? It's not like, oh, I'm gonna think of my wife, and no, if you're
Yeah.
thinking about your wife, go and sleep with your wife. That's
Yeah.
realistically, right?
Yeah, because I feel like we had a all men's camp probably like 2 years ago, a year ago, and one of the pastors that came up, it was like so facts, and I could tell that it was facts because most of the men that were there stayed quiet. He's like some of us, and he was saying us, and like
Yeah.
nobody really felt bad. he's
throwing
like,
shots.
yeah, but he's like, some of us prefer to masturbate than to have sex with our wives.
It doesn't
He's
make
like,
sense.
because whenever you have sex with your wife, you can't orgasm. He's like, but then when you go into the restroom and you use Manuela,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. He's like, then you'll be able to.
Imagine if we took God's word so literal. If your right hand, it's
Cut
hard
it
for you to
off,
sin,
cut it off.
chop it off.
Yeah,
It's the
Yeah.
truth.
No, and also because masturbation causes your mind to be dull to the idea of sex, because you'll see it as something easily accessible instead of something that should be that's something that should
Be
be
valued.
precious and valued to you, not only to your wife. Because again, like we're not there yet, but I feel as comfortable as my family is with it, as our church is with it, that it's something that we've acknowledged, and we know to a certain point of like sex should be this way because biblically it's this way.
Yeah.
Like I was talking to an older couple at church that were giving me and Samantha some premarital
Yeah.
counseling, and they were saying when they first got married, the husband didn't know anything about sex, so the husband was just like, okay, well, I used to masturbate, so as long as I orgasm, I'm okay. So
It's not.
and it's not, because he was going like that for 2 years before the wife was like, hey, it shouldn't be like that, like, because
Where am I?
yeah, where are my needs met? Like you're
Yeah.
only being met, but where am I met? So then they had
That's
to.
a whole. That's a
that's a
whole.
whole
That's a
thing.
whole another conversation.
Yeah, I feel
You know
like
what I mean?
like that's a whole nother
Part two.
conversation for next year.
Yeah.
I think going back to the value thing, I think as well valuing what you have. You know, I think thank God that all three of us have great women, great godly women, and knowing that those temptations and those lusts can really damage what you have.
Bi-
You know, because
collapse the walls
Mhm.
yeah,
that you have built.
because
Mhm.
yeah, it's definitely not easy, but when you hold yourself to like that mental resilience, it makes it so much more worth it.
Yeah.
You know,
Mhm.
and valuing what you have is so important, and I think that's where society has taken away the relationship. You know,
Mhm.
because you don't value the person that's next to you, and as well, I mean, I know this sounds bad, but being content with what God gave you as well.
Yeah.
I know that's maybe like obviously like not degrading the women we have, but a lot of the times, even as men, we compare ourselves to other men, and you're not content with what you have as a man in your woman, and as well what you have in yourself, and that's where a lot of the times you fall.
Hey, you say you were nervous, boy.
Yeah,
Hey, you
and
say you
he's
were
over here
nervous, boy.
saying facts.
But
Yeah.
I think it's super important of like sometimes even with me as in a relationship stage, like I think being realistic, like the temptations are there.
Yep.
Yeah.
You know,
100%.
but knowing, okay, well, like Mari, like she's a great woman who's helped me so much, and that she's a godly woman, and I wouldn't want to do anything to hurt her, has kept me really humble,
Yeah.
obviously,
Yeah.
and that's the tool that God has used for me is her, and I think just as well being content, because I tell her like, hey, I know there's other good-looking men that are probably taller, have bigger biceps or whatever, make more money, but
He low-key like, yeah.
He's like,
but I think what we have here is what God wants for
Mhm.
us, and I think that's what's most important, you know, because, and I told her too, like, I'm sure there's other prettier girls that have more this, that, and that, but that doesn't define a
Yeah.
relationship, you know, looks or what you feel isn't what makes a
Well,
relationship.
and I do say this: understanding the worth of oneself.
Yep.
And it goes for the girls, right?
Mhm.
Because if they're valued, if they know what they are worth, I don't think anybody else's perspective will change that.
Yeah.
Meaning, speaking to my wife, right? She could have done me. She could have left me, and she told me when we were going through our stuff. She said, and I've shared this. She said, you know, when your grandma's gone, I'm out.
Mhm.
And she said, when you love something, sometimes you have to
Let
let
it
it go, even though it doesn't matter how much you love this person.
Yeah.
Because that also activates another level of mentally speaking to the man of like, damn, my wife's about to leave me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That it puts everything into perspective.
Yeah, and my wife was like, I'm worth this. I know what I bring to the table,
Mhm.
and if you're not valuing that and you think you can find it somewhere else, then
Go ahead and try.
go ahead and try it.
My dad
My-
always. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead.
My dad, he told me, he's like, mijo, he says, mijo, mujeres fáciles siempre hay.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it's for those English speakers. It's
Easy,
easy women. There's always many.
Yeah, a lot.
And it's because it's true. Like the comparison that Frankie was saying. Like, of course, there's gonna be people that are gonna be 10 steps ahead of you. There's gonna be people that are gonna be 5 steps behind. But you're running your own race. Like a thing that sometimes I actually deal with this is seeing grown men have all their things, and me just focusing on that and me
Yeah.
being like, oh, I should have this, but not seeing that they're 45 years old, 50 years old, and I'm barely 22.
Well, and that comes to like, as we're coming to the closer end of this episode, the feeling the need to compete
Mm-hmm.
with another man
Yeah.
or with another person that has this, instead of being happy and joyful
Satisfied.
and satisfied with what you have.
Mm-hmm.
Paul speaks about it itself in chapter 4 of Philippians. I've learned to live in abundance, and I've learned to live in need.
Mm-hmm.
I've learned how to live with hunger and be filled.
Mm-hmm.
I said, but I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me, right? And he's acknowledging that this man has gone through so much things, but he learned how to live
Mm-hmm.
in content.
Yeah.
You know?
Because one day, like, we could be living at our peak, or what we could be feeling is at our peak, like even with God. And then when we're down here, where we might not be as financially stable, or
Yeah.
we might not feel that God is so close, like we have to be able to find that middle ground and to be like, God, you know what? You're my provider. You're always gonna be the one there for me. You're always gonna be my strength. You're gonna always be my help.
Yep.
Those seasons, God talks about seasons. Like, we're always
Mhm.
gonna be in seasons, and I think even that's why, like, even judging people, sometimes it's easy to do so.
Yeah.
But we're all in different seasons.
Mhm.
Like, we can't knock one who's not with God, or we can't like hate on someone who is with God. Because one day we might be down there, and one day we might be up there.
You just never know.
You just never know, and that's why one thing that this year I've tried to like really put my mind to is, as men, I think we always talking about providing, always like I think stress about being a provider,
Mhm.
and I think putting my trust in God and saying, hey, you know what, God, like, here you go, and being humble and saying I can't do it, like I'm stressing out, like I'm tripping out here, and I'm living right now, like I can't
Yeah.
just fast forward 5 years later.
Yeah.
But just having faith in God, and that's what's helped me. And I think in that way, God notices the heart, and He
Mhm.
provides, because you really are just having faith and saying, "Hey, it's not me, it's you," and just letting Him do.
You
what He
know,
needs to
part of
do.
my message on Sunday too was for everything in life that you go through, God has a name. You guys know that? God's names, right? If you're needing
Provider, Jehovah Jireh.
yeah. If you're needing healing, Jehovah Rapha, He is my healer. If you're needing a sense of identity, Jehovah Nisi, He is my my banner. You know what I mean? It's a sign of acknowledgement of identity. Every name that God is being called in Scripture has to do with an identity and something that He relates to.
It has to do with something that the person was needing, and God filled it.
Yeah, watch. I have my notes here from
Is it gonna be for tomorrow?
no, I just preached about this on Sunday. That was my preaching on
Yeah.
Sunday.
Sick. Do you guys still go live?
Yeah,
Alright,
it's in the live from Sunday.
Okay.
You guys want to watch it? Jehovah Jireh, the Lord is my provider. Jehovah Rapha, the Lord is our healer. Jehovah Nisi, the Lord is our banner. Jehovah Shalom, the Lord is our peace.
Yep.
Jehovah Ra, the Lord is our shepherd. This is the one I can't. Jehovah Tetzniku, the Lord is our righteousness. Jehovah Shammah, the Lord is here. Isaiah 42:8, I am the Lord. Abba Father, Adonai, the Lord is our master. He is the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end, the first and the last. El Roy, the God who sees me. Elohim, which is the first sentence, is the Lord is of all creation. Elohim, the Most High, God. Psalms 57:2. Emmanuel, God with us. The Lion of Judah, Revelations 5:5. El Shaddai, the God Almighty. The Good Shepherd, the Physician. The
I don't know if it's
the Rose of Sharon.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Lord, everything that the Lord was called was for a specific
Reason.
need for those people. So what does that mean? That our God is a omnipresent,
omnipotent.
everything. So every name. That's why God says, "Call on to me," right?
In your time of need.
In your time of need.
And like in the way that it says to pray in the Bible, right? And he gives us the reference. Our Father in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Dude, for me, it hits whenever I'm praying, because whenever I'm praying, like, hallowed be your name, that is literally bringing reverence to God. And every time I pray, I first start off with, God, you're great. Like, you are the beginning and the end. You are the creator of the universe. You molded me from just some pieces of clay. You formed every single part of me in my mother's womb. Like, acknowledging that God is God. That he's most powerful. He's creator. He's our father. He's our provider. He's our healer. Like, whenever I pray, that's the way that I do it. And dude, when I'm telling you that in the middle of my prayer, like, I just feel like God's manifest presence just.
And that's where I think the greatness of God lies in, right? I forgot what book is this, right? But it talks about, if my people were to humble themselves, right? Si mi pueblo se humillare, right? If my people were to humble themselves, right? I think it's probably in the book of Joel, I want to say. I could be wrong, right? But it talks about the awakening, right? And if you do this, and if you do this, and if you bring everybody, and you bring them to congregation, and you do this, and you do that, maybe he says, maybe Prophet Joel's, maybe I'll do this, maybe. But first, it starts with the act of obedience towards God. And I think that's the lack of identity within men nowadays, and lack of mental resilience nowadays, where there is no sense of identity, right? There is no sense of obedience towards God, and we have shined away from God, allowing the enemy to take control of one's thoughts, of one's hearts, of one's identity, and minimize the power that it is to call out to God and say, God, I am in need. He said, in the book of Psalms, it says, I look out to the mountains. Where shall my help come from?
My help comes from the Lord, the maker of heaven and earth. I prefer it in Spanish.
Yeah.
Like, ¿de dónde
Vendrá mi socorro viene de Jehová,
Jehová.
quien hizo los cielos y la tierra. Right?
I feel like as men, like, going just a little bit back into the comparison thing, we all try to compare ourselves.
Yeah.
But if we just do what the word says and humble ourselves and acknowledge that there is one that is greater than us, that there is God, the one that provides for us, and if we put ourselves last, he's gonna take us first.
You must minimize yourself to allow God to grow in you.
If we go, there's a pastor that I used to listen to, and he says, if we want to climb the corporate ladder, become the CEO, he's like, the first thing that we need to do is go down to the bottom.
Yep.
And God's gonna take us to the top.
And I'll say this, and I'll end this with this. Guys, if you're in a waiting period, You know, what does a waiter do?
They serve.
Maybe if you're in this waiting period, it's time for you to serve.
Yeah.
So, guys, thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of this Loud Podcast. We're gonna have to run this back and have another hour or so talk about just straight men talk.
Yeah.
Matters of the Mind, the new series. I think a guy just revealed it. Please tune into the next episode. We'll see you guys.